Welcome to the KCMA podcast, aka the Foxhole. Listen, before we get started and head into the Foxhole with today's great guest, this is what I need from you. I need you to check us out. If you're watching us on YouTube, leave a comment, like, or subscribe to the channel. That lets me know we're doing some awesome and amazing things for you. Or if you're not looking at us on YouTube, you're checking us out on one of our other social media platforms such as Facebook or LinkedIn. This is what you can do. You head over to kcma.ky.gov. Once you're on that website, you will get some amazing information and you will stay up to date on everything we have going on so that you can say that you're informed on all things military, all things Kentucky. Listen, you've heard me say it a few times and I'm going to say it a few hundred more. This podcast was designed with you in mind. It was designed so that we could interview some key people in the bluegrass and great state of Kentucky that are helping our military members and their families succeed in life. This is what this podcast is all about. Listen, I want you to stay engaged. I want you to stay motivated. I want you to stay educated. And I want you to stay inspired by watching this podcast because we're here for you, our military community. We want you to be informed on all things military and all things Kentucky. So listen, as we head on into the Foxhole so that we can interview today's amazing guest, and I promise you, you will be blown away by today's guest. We're going to do everything we possibly can. We're continuing to work tirelessly day and night at KCMA to ensure that we're becoming a military-ready state. You've heard me say it from the first interview, and I'm gonna keep saying it. We're going to take the necessary steps to become a military-ready state. So listen, drop what you're doing, stop everything, put everything down. Well, you don't have to put everything down. If you're going to take notes like me, here you go, right? Then go ahead and put your notepads up. But other than that, I want you to stop everything you're doing and listen to what our special guest on today has to say. Join me as I head into the Foxhole. Let's go. Foxhole Nation, we are back. We are live in the Foxhole with none other than the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Rusty Mardis. Rusty, how you doing today, my friend?
I am doing awesome. I appreciate that, but I think it's you're looking at a mirror. You must be talking about yourself because that all goes right back on you, right?
I don't think so, but hey, you know what? I'll take all the accolades and the good stuff that I can get, right?
Well, you're doing an amazing job, and I greatly appreciate the opportunity to sit down and talk a little bit about what we're doing here at NKU's VRS, but throughout the state of Kentucky as well.
No doubt, man. This is the podcast that we have designed specifically to be all things military, all things Kentucky. And I'm telling you, I mean, you barely make it in, right? NKU is right there on that Ohio border, man. So you're in, but barely, but we love it. And we're going to support it 100%.
Well, I appreciate that. And I apologize. I hope that didn't make things a little bit too bright. Nope. So just coming back from lunch and realized that my light was turned off. So I apologize tremendously for that, but we'll put a little bit of light on the situation. And that's kind of what we do here at NKU anyway, right? We like to spark and ignite the flame. So we'll just pretend that we just lit the camera up a bit.
No doubt, no doubt. Let's jump into this pool deep in first, right? So here, in your opinion, right, I want to know, it's something I ask all the guests, what makes Kentucky a great state for military families?
Well, I think one of the amazing things about Kentucky is the amount of organizations that are here to help empower the military veterans and their families to accomplish their life's missions. I mean, we support the military, right? Us Kentuckians are big, love our military, and I've been stationed at places that necessarily isn't the case. So we're lucky to have that here. And so the work that you guys do, I want to throw a shout out to you guys too, because I think the CDL waiver for military service members, the new program with the Kentucky State Police, and the other licenses that you are working on, them are real game changers for our military and spouses and veterans that get out. So in addition with that, we have some great nonprofit and veteran and family supports. I'm a huge fan. You had them on your podcast recently, KDVA, Kentucky Department of Veterans Affairs. They're awesome. And the Veterans Club, shout out to them down near Louisville. The Veterans Community Alliance of Louisville, the Barracks Project, North Kentucky Military Veteran Coalition. There's many others I could go on and mention and list, but that's what the big difference maker is, right? So we're not only here to help, aid, and support, but we're here to empower those military veterans and their family members to get things done.
Man, I love that, man. You rattled off some big things before we were talking. We were both talking about how we were kind of both fans of Dr. Dallas Kratzer. Shout out Dr. Dallas Kratzer.
Who,
I know he's watching. He's my boss. He checks out all the podcasts. But
and an Air Force guy. So
yes, I tell him all the time. His biggest mistake was that he joined the Air Force instead of the Army. But we're all entitled to one mistake in life, and the Air Force was the one he chose to make. So that's just kind of a running joke inside.
Absolutely. We like to pick and prod on each other from all the different military veteran services. I will tell you, I was stationed with the Army for 1 year. It was the worst year of my life. So just throwing that out there.
Well, you know what? He says his greatest memory is being with the Army overseas. So we'll take that.
Yes,
so
sir.
Here we go, Rusty. Tell us a little bit about your military story.
Well, I was fairly lucky. Well, I don't know how far back you want me to go. I could bore you with a lot of details, but I will tell you that I actually went to NKU right out of high school and found out quickly that college life wasn't really right for me. And just to be frank and totally transparent, I just wasn't mature enough to handle it. And so I had two cousins. One was in the Navy, one was in the Air Force. We were sitting down talking one day at a family reunion, and the Air Force guy won me over. And I was like, well, I'm going to go join. So I went to the recruiting station, signed the dotted line, and I was going to go in and get my education benefits and get out of Dodge, right? And go back to school. Well, 24 years later, I ended up retiring and had a wonderful career throughout the Air Force, to include 12 years as an enlisted member. Was public health during that time, preventive medicine in the Army. But I did that and was fortunate enough while I was in the service to get my undergraduate degree in organizational leadership. And that led me to applying for officer training school. I was fortunate enough to be selected from that. And I went from being a tech sergeant select to a lieutenant in the United States Air Force, the greatest Air Force in the world, and as a space and missile officer. I went to did ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, where I hung out 90 to 120 feet underneath the ground every third day. And after that, I went on and did training and evaluation. Got picked up to go to satellite school. So I went and was commander of a space satellites called Millstar. And from that led me into being an executive officer, which led me to being that deployment with the Army that we talked about. And so I spent time in Afghanistan as well. And once I was in Afghanistan, I was outside my career duty. And so I reached out and said, you know what, would it be, I'd like to have the golden opportunity to go and teach young people leadership and ROTC, Reserve Officer Training School, at the University of Cincinnati. And they approved it. University of Cincinnati was kind enough to bring me on board. And from there, I made the difficult decision in 2014 to go ahead and retire. So I've been fortunate to be in veteran services since 2012 as a volunteer, and then got into employment in 2016, then found myself here at NKU, kind of doing the full spectrum of all veteran services and benefits. So.
Man, that's an amazing story. You kind of, you went the enlisted route, and then you got your degree and made the jump to become an officer. Seems like you had a pretty great career while as an officer, but also it was giving you some opportunities, right? That I think that education piece really proved beneficial. And I think I've talked to a couple people on the podcast about how sometimes as service members, when we are so busy doing our job that a lot of times we forget or get too busy or too bogged down or whatever the reason we have with in completing our education until it's like we're almost out or about towards the end. Seems like that spark where maybe it wasn't working when you were 18, it did spark a little bit later in your career.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And like I said, I was just a little bit too immature, I think, to really concentrate on what I need to do mentally to prepare myself for day in, day out of college work. And so that military helped me with that discipline, and it also gave me great educational benefits like tuition assistance that I could utilize while I was in the service and continue to pursue my degree throughout.
No doubt. So listen, We got you. Well, as military people, we're used to acronyms all over the place. So, we see acronyms next to your name. So, tell us a little bit about NKU and specifically your role at NKU.
Yeah, like I said, I was fortunate enough to kind of land into this position. It's kind of a dream job for me. It's coming back home, right? So I kind of started my education career here and be able to come back and be here as a liaison for all our military and student veterans and the family members that are dependents that are using educational benefits as well as a dream come true for me. But I'm the coordinator of the Veteran Resource Station here at the North Kentucky University. We're basically that one-stop shop for, like I said, all military veterans, ROTC, and dependents to provide, facilitate, and coordinate program services to ensure educational and life goal success. And I think that's key. We're here to support and empower for them to reach success in whatever they're trying to get accomplished, if it's education or in their life. I'm a big believer. I don't know how your transition was. My transition was a little bit difficult. I struggled a little bit, both when I got back from my deployment, but also when I got out of the service. And, militarytransitions.org did a survey and found about 76% of all veterans have stressful transitions. So helping to ease that transition, a lot of veterans will, since they get educational benefits when they get out of the service, they'll do school. And sometimes it's not a great fit, but a lot of times it's just that they don't know how to work this, go through and be able to set themselves up for success. And so we're here to help them get that success.
Yeah. So when I got out, it was not easy. I struggled, because I think the biggest thing was I had to learn to, or I think that most of us have to learn is you go from a 100% team environment, right, to a, look out for yourself. And it doesn't mean there's no team support behind you, but it just looks totally different from when you take that uniform off to what you put on a suit jacket or a polo shirt or wherever you go to work at. It's just the culture is different. And I don't think I was well prepared for that. I think I knew of it. I was aware of it. Clearly, we all have family members who are not in the military, but and they give you the best advice they can. But when you come from an environment where it really is, I got your six, or I got my brother's back, or we're in this foxhole together, to, sometimes it seems like I'd rather stab you in the back than I got you. You know what I mean? Like then I got your back. That was a really hard thing to do. I didn't really know how to interview well.
Right.
I think I had some communication issues, even though I thought I was a pretty good communicator. I was like you had my degrees, but I don't think I really made it. I made it work for me in the military. Wasn't really aware of how to make it work for me as a civilian.
Yeah, we do a great job, right? When we come back into the military to break it all down, like they say in basic training and officer training school or officer candidate school, we break you down, then build you back up. When we build you back up, we build you back up in that team aspect. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of really get out of that civilian life into that military life. We do our time, whatever that time is. It could be 2 years, could be 4 years, could be 24 years, whatever the case may be. And we don't necessarily do an excellent job of that transitional process out. And right. We know through, Student Veterans of America, who did a survey and says that, most veterans, when they get out, they're not going to have a plan. They're going to adapt, overcome, embrace the suck, and figure it out when they get there, right? And sometimes the
worst advice ever.
Worst advice ever, right? And we kind of figure out how to do it on our own. And there's been, lots of studies and organizations that looked at transitioning veterans, and we know if you have support as you transition out, then you're going to have better success. American Warrior Partnership did a survey in 2020 that found that over the last 4 years, if you have engagement in veterans with other veterans, you have more likelihood to success. To the tune of if you have engagement within the first 3 months, then your well-being is 21% better. If you have engagement greater than 3 months, it's 79% better. So you don't have to go through it alone. You can rely on that team that supports them around here. And through the educational world right now, every major university, every state university and college has a veteran resource station or something very similar to it that can help you not only in your educational aspects and your goals, but transitioning out of life. Because once you transition successfully, that's going to set you up for that success, not only educationally, but also for a job, also with family, and also in your life. So take advantage of everything that's out there.
Listen, man, you hit the nail right on the head, because if you don't, you'll regret it, right? Just like
Mhm.
we always delay our education, we regret it, right? But but you'll regret not taking advantage of all the resources you have out there, because I think everybody knows it's no secret. It's a tough transition. It's no
Ab-
secret, right? It's
Absolutely. Yeah.
stressful. The numbers don't lie, right? Like for years and years and years, I think since World War I, it's been a tough transition. When you come back to adjust to civilian life, our Vietnam veterans probably have experienced it the worst. I mean, I remember when I was working at the American Legion National Headquarters, that was the largest group at the time they were still bitter
Yeah.
from their transition back into to coming back to America. It was really rough. So
Yeah, and we didn't do a great job as America, right? But we want to welcome home back all our Vietnam veterans for sure. And every war is a little bit different. Everybody
yeah.
experiences things a little bit different. Every transition is going to be a little bit different. So being around those like-minded souls and people,
Hmm.
and seeing other people that's been successful in that transition, it just gives you that motivation to continue on and move forward. And Sebastian Younger, if you're familiar with him, wrote the book The Tribe, which is really an amazing book, life changer influencer, especially in my life in particular with dealing with that transition. But he talked about really three things that you need to be successful. And that is you need to feel competent in what you do. You need to feel authentic in your life, and you need feed connection to others.
Hmm.
That's kind of what we do, right? As a veteran resource station, we provide the information to the individuals so they feel confident in making their decisions. They're authentic in what they are accomplishing. They can see
Hmm.
the path and how to navigate it. And besides, we have a lounge, a hangout place, right? With coffee and computers and free printing. You get free printing. And
Nice.
but it allows you to make that connection of like-minded folks, and you can bounce things off each other. And we got people that graduate. We got people that are seniors, people are freshmen, and they can all come together and kind of just work together to make sure that it's a smooth and easy transition.
Yeah, that kind of goes into my next question. I was going to ask you is like, what is the Veteran Resource Station, and why do you think it's important? And I think, could you clarify, because we talked a little bit about it, but I mean, I always like to break things down a little bit. Most people have probably heard of a Veteran Resource Center, maybe not always a Veteran Resource Station. Could you kind of tell what the small subtle difference is there?
Yeah, the small cell difference is space, right? And what you're able to provide. We're fortunate enough to be, we're considered a station. We're considered, we are a 2-room station. One is a lounge, and then a small office space. Inside that lounge, like I said, we have computers and some other things for engagement and TVs and stuff like that. So you can just chill and get out of the way. But we also have space that you can study and have quiet time and do things. But the big thing is finding those resources, right? So
Right.
in my eyes, at least, that center will have a one-stop set of resources that's available. So you can come in and get everything accomplished. So we have a great working relationship with the Veterans Affairs. We're fortunate enough to have a Cincinnati VAMC, VA Medical Center here that's does really well nationally. They support us, and there'll be a person here typically once a month that can help with VA type benefits, but we can reach out to them at any time. We have a great working relationship with KDVA, Kentucky Department of Veterans Affairs.
Mhm.
We have a great working relationship with DAV. We've got national headquarters right here in Northern Kentucky.
Right.
So we're fortunate to have that. But we have, like I said, all these nonprofits that are around and available that we're have connections with, and so we can do a warm handoff. And I think that's key, and that's important to have that capability. And so I'm fortunate enough to be a founder of the North Kentucky Military Veteran Coalition, which is just a group of advocates and supporters of military veterans and their families. That's 60 plus organizations that are working together. We can reach out and get those connections, anything and everything you need to get accomplished and done, if it's federal, state, local, on-campus resources. We have that direct connect to be able to do that. And I think that's the key to helping them reach their success.
Man, I love that. I love that. And so really you've kind of built your veteran resource station really around that word success. I mean, I've heard
Mhm.
you use it quite a bit. I think anyone who's probably an advocate or a proponent or even comes through the center can feel it, because you're definitely passionate about it when you speak about it in your voice. And so do you use those three prongs as kind of like as I interviewed Dr. Marty Polio, who is the superintendent for JCPS, and he's always talking about the North Star. So would you say that that three-pronged approach is your North Star approach to how you work with veterans and their families?
Yeah, I'm gonna pump it up the star to be 5-prong approach, right? So because I think engagement is so key. We talked about that from the study that was done with the American Warrior Partnership.
Mm-hmm.
Proven, if you have engagement with the veteran, they're going to have better likelihood of success. Something that we haven't talked about, maybe this is an appropriate time, I'll throw it out there though, is American Psychological Association, they did a survey, and the survey's been pretty consistent really over the last 5 years when I went back and look at it. But the shocking thing to me is 20% of student veterans reported suicide thoughts with a plan.
Right.
7.7% reported a suicide attempt.
Mm-hmm.
As a non-veteran student, 6% considering compared to that 20%, 1.3% attempt. That's a 7-point difference towards veteran suicide. And unfortunately, I've experienced it. I was at a funeral just a few weeks ago, and we got to do a better job. We have to stop that, right? And
Right.
I think the key to that is having programs and having accessibility for to have that engagement and work through that and really fight that battle, because there is an avenue and we can solve this problem, but it takes that tribe, right? I mentioned tribe before, to working together. And I mentioned that 5-point star because I think engagement is such a key point. But once they're engaged, what do you do next, right? So veterans tend to trust veterans. Military tend to trust other military members. My family, I was fortunate enough to retire out of the service. My wife I met while I was in the military. She retired out of the service. My kids basically retired out of the service as well. And they struggled in their transition. So it's
Right.
the entire military family that's doing that. So we all have to be together for each other. So it's building that trust, right? So engagement, having that communication, building that trust, and that trust happens over a time period. So being here, constantly being here for the veterans. And I think another big key to that is follow-up, right?
Right.
And being able to, if they come in with a situation, following up with them. How did that situation go? Did it resolve? Is it done? Is it over? And really continuing that process throughout. And it's just a continuous process. Keep being there for them.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love how you brought that last point in. It's really about closing that circle, closing that gap. You know what I mean? Because there's going to be other things that are popping up, but we got to know that you close the circle on the one you were working on, or I would say maybe your most important priority. That's amazing. I love that 5-point prong. It works a lot better, especially with the engagement piece. I think you're right. I think it's a missing piece, and I think that especially we both work in we're in higher ed, and engagement is the buzzword in higher ed right now. You got to engage with students. You got to engage with them, whether they're veterans, whether they're minorities, whether they're underserved, overserved, doesn't matter. It's all about that engagement, because once you have that engagement, you can have the foundation to build that relationship, ask the tough questions, challenge them to do tough things. But without it, it gets really difficult. And with veterans, let's be honest, sometimes we do like to be challenged. That's what makes things a little bit more fun for us.
Yeah.
Would you disagree?
Not at all. And part of that 5-point part is that when we build that commitment, that trust, that's part of being a coach, right? That's part of being a mentor and being there for them, walking them through it and being there for them. You mentioned having your six. That's what it's all about, right? Being brothers and sisters in arms together, even though we might not carry a weapon around our waist or around our back and have the uniform on, we're still brothers and sisters in arms, and we're still here working together as a team.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is your weapons just change, right? They're no longer, weapons that fire bullets or whatever the case may be. They're weapons that really are in our situation that help you out in that higher education field. That they're the books that you're carrying, right? Those are your weapons, because that's what's going to get you through this conflict of class, right, or coursework, or to accomplish this goal to get you across the line. Because at the end of the day, like you said, we want to have your six. We want to celebrate with you to get you across that stage at graduation. And that's the ultimate goal, whether it's an associate's, a bachelor's, a master's, a doctorate degree, whatever it is, whatever degree you're seeking for, or certification, we want to just get you across the finish line.
Yeah, absolutely agree, and set you up again in that transitional success, because that's going to lead to the other successes that you build up on in your life.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Let me ask you this. Rusty. So, are there any programs out there that you want to promote that you think you're engaged in, or that NKU is really trying to push? Not saying that we're trying to sell anything, but again, I do feel like part of what we're doing is about motivating, inspiring, and educating our military members, their families, and veterans about things that are going on in the great state of Kentucky.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, my biggest push, really, honestly, is if you're in military, you have TA. Take advantage of your
Yes.
TA while you have the opportunity to. And if you qualify for the post 9/11 GI Bill, and you can do top up, why not do that? But before you
Yep.
jump into it, make sure you do the research. So talk to
Mhm.
your education officer, go to your education base, or reach out to the school of your choice and talk to their veteran resource station or veteran resource center or military affiliate success centers, wherever they're calling themselves. Every university, every school, for the most part, has one.
Right.
All state schools do. So working with them to get through that. Something that we're launching around Veterans Day is, well, jump back real quick, because something that's really cool that we're doing is we mentioned that about success, but we're having a Champions of Success award ceremony. That's the first time on campus where we're going to recognize a veteran, a student member, a non-veteran student member, so civilian, a faculty staff veteran, and faculty staff non-veteran civilian that's supporting that champion success model to ensure that our student veterans are reaching their ultimate goal, like you said, walking across the stage or wherever that might be. And so that's really cool. We're launching also what we call the Green Zone. You probably heard of the Green Zone. It's basically a familiarity for the faculty and staff and student workers to understand that some of the situations that veterans might find themselves in the classroom and why some of them are struggling to get through that class, and how can we work through that and work through it and get it done. So we, again, working towards that ultimate goal of whatever their educational goal may be. So those are some really cool things. We got a brand new website coming out that's really super excited about. It hasn't launched yet, but it's going to be a game changer, I think. It's just as far as the resources that are going to be available for all Kentucky military veterans and their family members. So we got some cool things happening, but take advantage of your educational benefits for sure.
I love it. I love it. So let me ask you this: are you going to? Because I mean, I'm gonna stay on this for a little bit. Are you going to put that 5-prong approach of, I think you call it championship success or champion success? Is that going to be on the website? Hopefully, it's on the website. Please say it's going to be on the website.
It will be now. Absolutely. And it's part of that whole student liaison journey, right? So I consider our office to be a liaison towards that success. And like you said, a team member within that success. So we're empowering, we're not enabling. And I think that's a huge difference. We're going to empower you to have success. And I got, I mentioned the tribe concept in the past, but I'm a big supporter of it. And I basically broke it down to triage, refer, ignite the spark, build a plan, have goals, and then, empower to get that accomplished and done. And I think that's key. You're here for them. We're working together as a team, but you have to take ownership and really empower yourself to reach what your goals you're trying to get done.
I love it. I love it. So listen, Rusty, before we get you out of here, man, because we're both extremely busy today. We got a lot going on. I know you had a lot going on this morning, but we won't get into all that.
Right.
But what we're doing here is we have what we call sniper round. 5 quick questions, 5 quick answers, right? Here we go. You know how it goes. Targets coming up. Let's see if Rusty can knock them down. First question. What was your favorite military duty station?
Oh, a politically correct answer. Each has its uniqueness and awesomeness in its own right mind, right? With that being said, I'm going to go back to, like Dallas said, my year with the Army in Afghanistan was for the mission. The mission that we did and the difference that we made, I think, was one of the most remarkable things that I've done in my entire military career. Overall, just from a place where my family and I just absolutely loved, was Great Falls, Montana, good old Malmstrom Air Force Base. It gets cold. Don't get me wrong. It gets cold, but it is so beautiful and a great location.
I can bet. I mean, listen, I've been in that area. Well, I've been to South Dakota several times. Love South Dakota. Again, it does get cold, but like you said, the views, the mountains, the hills, everything that's out there. I've never been to Montana, but I'm sure if it's anything like South Dakota, which are pretty much next to each other, it's pretty much the same, I would imagine. Here we go. Sniper round. Question number 2. What was or is your best military memory?
Well, I don't know if it's the best, but the one that I still go over in my mind and sometimes in my dream. Going back to Afghanistan, I was part
Mhm.
of I got to tell a little backstory, and I know this is sniper round has to be fast, so I'm going to speed through as fast as I can. But
Gotcha.
I was an Air Force officer, right,
Mhm.
with a lot of years of experience because I was prior enlisted for 12 years as well. When I got picked up to deploy in 2010, remember I retired in 2014, so I'm towards the end of my career.
Right.
Um, and pretty well established in that career. And I met a young lady that went over to get my weapons. And I'm like, she goes, "What weapon would you like to take with you?" And I was like, "Every weapon I'm entitled to. I want as many weapons as I can get because I'm going to Afghanistan, right?" She goes, "Well, you're an officer in the Air Force and you're probably going to be behind the wire the entire time. You're never going to walk outside of it. I don't think you really need to take a whole lot." So I was like, "Well, give me everything I can take." So I took an M9, M16. But
Yep.
get over, I had 278 outside the wire missions. So I was constantly on the go, right? So in one particular time, we had 4 convoy Humvee. I was in the back Humvee, and the
Mhm.
front Humvee shut down. It broke down. Happened to break down right into a very large crowd of Afghani nationals at a bus stop and right next to a town and village that was known to harbor Taliban. So we were kind of a precarious situation. The NCOs all jumped out, ran up to check out the vehicle, came back and said, "Hey, can you help pull security? Because we're going to be here for a few minutes." So of course, I was kind of like halfway through my deployment. I got way too comfortable in that deployment. I had my M9 in my hip and left my M16 back at the in the armory. So I grabbed his M4, ran out and pulled rear security with a good friend of mine, Captain Oscar Kauser, and we're sitting there and just watching the crowd. And
Right.
one gentleman decided he's going to run at us. Now, if you know anything about Afghans and what they dress like, you can't tell if they got suicide vests or anything else on. So that situation elevated pretty quickly.
Right.
And so we yelling at him, "Sit down, set up." Uh, Captain Kauser goes, "What should I do?" I was like, "Well, we give him the universal symbol. He better stop where he at." So we clicked our weapons, pointed at him, and thankfully he sat down. Still
Right.
screaming and yelling at us, but he sat down. So I don't think that necessarily was the best, but it is definitely one of the more memorable experiences that I went through. And that wasn't quick, and I apologize.
Oh, that was fine, but it was full of excitement. Full of excitement. Full of excitement. Oops. So we know, knowing that you went through probably several schools or several training schools, what was your favorite military training school? Could have been, whatever your officer's training school was.
Yeah, I think I didn't go through this school per se, and it really wasn't an exercise, a military training exercise. So it's kind of outside the question. You may not give me credit for it, but one of the things that was one of the most rewarding that I went through was in Camp Shelby in Mississippi, another Army base, right?
Mhm.
But I was a field training officer, an FTO for Reserve Officer Training School, ROTC field training. So the cadets from all across the nation would come down and do 4 weeks of training in half of it in Alabama at Maxwell Air Force Base and half at Camp Shelby as a field exercise. And I tell you, the dedication, how smart these folks are, they're passionate leaders in the military, and all these wonderful students are just still kicking it in the military and doing amazing things. That was probably one of the best schools that I was a part of, and it was truly remarkable.
Sweet. I love it. I love it. Last question, round 5. Here we go. Sniper round. If you could do your military career all over again, what would you do different?
Um, not necessarily, I guess, military career, but I would have gotten my master's in something I really wanted to do after my military service, or even completed my PhD, like you were smart enough to do while I was still in, or at least immediately when I got out, because I
Right.
think education is so important and it needs to go forth. And I was just trying to fill the boxes, unfortunately, while I was in the military. I had made up my mind once I got commissioned, I was going to be in for the long haul. I wanted
Mhm.
to be a commander. I wanted to, had all these goals and ambitions. So I kind of just went and got my master's, knocked out, and I got it in management. It's not a bad master's per
Right.
se, and it's led me to a lot of great things. I've been an adjunct teacher teaching business schools and stuff like that, but it's not something that necessarily I would have done, if I could do over again. I would have done it a little bit differently.
No doubt, no doubt. I think we all have those things. We all have something we would have. I mean, maybe not. So far, every guest has answered that question. So, I think we're good. So here we always do on the podcast. This is what makes the Foxhole, this KCMA Foxhole podcast so unique, so different. We're always looking for ways we can give organizations, entities, people, whatever, shout outs. So here we go, Rusty. What organization or person, individual, whatever, would you like to highlight and give a shout out to on the KCMA podcast today?
Well, why ruin a tradition, right? I think I blew every sniper round so far, so I'll just throw in 2 and just keep it going. But first, I want to say to all the military veterans and families, get out there and go visit your Kentucky Career Centers and take advantage of tremendous programs that they have available for you. Special shout out especially to the DVOPs, Disabled Veterans Outreach Program Specialists, and Leavers, local veteran employer reps in the state. Talking about a bunch of dedicated, passionate group that will work hard for you in employment. Now, with that being said, I recommend to the show to get Jason Hutchinson. He's a Navy veteran. We'll forgive him for that. But he is the staff assistant to Career Development Office and the program coordinator for JVSG. That's Jobs for Veteran States Grants. And he oversees all those DVOPs and Leavers. And like I said, they're doing some really cool and amazing things. And he is just a dedicated, passionate, and he believes in working tirelessly for our military veterans and their family members. So get out and visit with them. But I also want to throw a shout out to Fort Campbell's and the USO transitions program. The transition manager is Lauren Kavaski, and her team is working with about 700 military a month to get them prepared for that difficult transition that we keep talking about. Yeah. And so they are an amazing program, and it's growing. They're starting to move out to other bases and so on and so forth. And it's such a needed program, and it's a connector. So part of that military transitional team is not only working for when you first get out of the service, but connecting you to those local resources that we keep talking about is so important for that engagement aspect anywhere in the country. And so I'm fortunate enough to be a partner with them. So if you're coming to Northern Kentucky, you're probably coming to see me. I apologize for the face. Call me on the phone. It's a lot better. But reach out to us, and we're happy to support and help any way we possibly can.
And Jason and Laura, we're coming for you. So you are not safe. He name dropped. He told us where to find you. And guess what? Our beacons are out. Our drones are looking for you, and we will find you to get you on the KCMA podcast. All right, Rusty. It's been great. It's been phenomenal. I've loved our time together today. But listen, I always ask this. The final thought does not rest with me. The final thought, I believe it should always rest with our guests. So, what would you hope that our listeners get out of today's podcast?
I think it would be to be an advocate, right? And to be engaged with other like-minded folks, no matter if you're military or veteran or a family member, but be a resource and for them, and just be there for them, right? Know what's out there. Listen to this podcast because you do an amazing job of sharing what's out there in the state of Kentucky. And it's going to just continue to build and grow, but just continue to learn about all the great programs available throughout the state. And of course, thank you, Sean. I really greatly appreciate the opportunity to come in and talk to you. I told you this earlier, but your passion drove me to watching this, and I love what you bring. And I tell you, all the guests you've had, their heart and their minds are in the right place, and it's all about being advocates, supporters, and empowering our military veterans and their families.
No doubt. And listen, we did it exactly what we said we'd do today. We motivated you, we inspired you, we educated you, but most importantly, we kept it all things military, all things Kentucky. And listen, NKU has got it going on. And if you're thinking about, if you're a veteran, if you're in that area, I'm assuming what's that, Cincinnati as well, Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, go check out Rusty, check out the VRS, get involved, help educate, help advocate, help some veteran through this transition process, get across the stage and get their degree. Man, it's been amazing, Rusty. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The podcast is as good as it is, not because of me, but because of people like you.
Thank you. It takes a tribe, right? And we're all working together, so I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
No problem. Have a great day, sir.
Thank you, Rusty. Oh my gosh, was that not an amazing Foxhole interview? As promised, and as we always say we're going to deliver, we kept it all things military, all things Kentucky, and I know you learned a few great things today from that Foxhole interview. Listen, I want to hear from you. I want to learn and know what you think of this podcast. Good, bad, ugly, or indifferent. How we can improve. Who we should have on here next. Listen, I promise you, we're going to do everything to keep our military community and their family members engaged in this podcast, because there are 4 things that I really want to do. But before I get to that, I definitely want to hear from you. You can reach me at sean.owens@ky.gov. Again, that's SHAUN.OWENS@ky.gov. And listen, Rusty gave you shout outs, but I want to give Rusty a shout out, but I also want to give the Northern Kentucky University Veteran Resource Station a shout out. Huge shout out. Thank you for all that you're doing for all of our military members and their family members. Can't thank you enough. NKU BRS. Thank you. Listen, Rusty gave you a shout out, and I want to give you a shout out too. That is to the JVSG Jason, right? We're coming for you, as well as Lauren for the Fort Campbell USO. We're definitely coming for you. So be on the lookout for those 2 people, Jason from the DVOP and JVSG, as well as Lauren from Fort Campbell USO. Listen, we did it. We did it. We did it. We did it. We kept you engaged. We kept you motivated. We got you educated. And guess what? You're going to leave inspired by what you heard from this podcast today. There's no doubt in my mind. Rusty, you are the man. Huge shout outs to you and to Northern Kentucky. But listen, to all of our podcast members, listen, this is what I want you to do. Foxhole Nation. Wow, I just came up with that term. Foxhole Nation, this is what I want you to do. Until we meet again in a few weeks, I want you to stay safe and have a great day.